Welcome to the Red Letter Disciple podcast. My name is Zach Zender. Chris Johnson, my co-host, is going to be joining me in a couple of minutes. Our desire is that this podcast would challenge and inspire you to grow as a disciple wherever you might be, because when we grow as disciples, we give the world a greater, fuller, and truer expression of Jesus. That's going to change the world. We also have a secondary goal. We want to have a lot of fun. We want to have some laughs along the way, not take ourselves too seriously. And today's guest, Eric Bramlett, oh man, he is going to help us with that. We've been waiting for this episode for a while. Eric is the creative arts director at Community Christian Church, one of the most influential churches in our nation. And so we talked to him as the creative arts director, like, how do you cultivate creativity ongoing? I asked him, like, what does God think about comedy? Plus, Eric is the song parody expert in the Christian space. So Chris and I try our best at writing a song parody actually about Eric. And so we're going to see who wins the parody battle, all that and more today. So we're just warming you up. You do not want to miss this show. Today's show is sponsored by Red Letter Living. That's right. That's our company where we create resources that challenge people of all ages to grow as disciples. I want to talk to you today about our newest 40-day challenge, Forgiving Challenge. Came out just about a year ago. And this is a resource to help people truly experience God's freedom. You're actually going to hear in today's episode from Eric about the power of forgiveness. And so we'd love for you to go on the journey to not only, yes, forgive others, but what would it look like to truly receive God's forgiveness for your life? Pastors, we would love to partner with you for a full-on 40-day church experience. And so as you look at the calendar right now, when this comes out live at least, New Year and Lent are just around the corner, and these are two really great seasons for a 40-day challenge. And so this 40-day challenge dives deep into what is God's forgiveness really like. Because once you're forgiven from God, not only can you be free, but you can help free and forgive others. Can you imagine a church walking in the freedom of Jesus together? So not only learn about God's freedom, but in our 40-day challenges, which we've launched in more than 800 churches, you can grow your small groups by more than 40% using one of these resources. You can bring unity in a divided time the more you focus on Christ and his words, life, and habits. And we're going to provide a turnkey resource. And think about that right now. If you're listening to us the week or two this comes out, like, you're prepping for full-on Christmas. And I hope you have a great Christmas Eve celebration. But right around the corner, you got New Year and a whole new year doing church. What would it look like for you to go all in on your Christmas experience, knowing you've got 6 weeks of done-for-you materials to start the year with? So if all of that or any of that sounds interesting, you can go to forgivingchallenge.com. Go to forgivingchallenge.com to find out more information. And pastors, if you'd like a free copy of Forgiving Challenge, just email our team, hello@redletterchallenge.com. We'd love to work with you. With all that being said, we got to get to Eric Bramlett and this episode of the Red Letter Disciple. So let's do this. Well, we're going to have a fun one.
Go! I had this one circled on my calendar the minute that we booked this next guest. I mean, not saying that all the other podcasts are going to be, average or anything. It's just that this one is the one that I circled. When you're playing a good football team, you circle that one on the calendar. This is the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, that I've had circled for months.
Because it features the one and only Eric Bramlett, who is the creative arts director for one of the most influential, powerful churches in our nation, Community Christian Church. And he also is a co-author. He's a husband, a father. And here's what is amazing about Eric. He is the world's greatest parody writer in the world.
He probably wouldn't say that, but we're going to say it for him. He's the Tiger Woods of parody writing.
There you go. And he's done this many times at Exponential Conference. He kind of came on the show a little bit in season 1 with Dave Ferguson.
Because
but today,
I begged Dave Ferguson to bring him on.
But today he gets his own episode. Welcome to the show, Eric Bramlett.
Hey,
we're excited.
There he is.
Hey, you guys. How you doing?
Wow. Good. And you're on vacation right now.
I am super relaxed. You caught me at a really good time. So just enjoying some time away right on Lake Superior in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which most Illinois people think is just Wisconsin, but it's actually Michigan.
Well, that's good. I thought it was Wisconsin. Who knew? Who knew?
Right.
So do you do any fishing? What do you do on vacation? Stare at the wall?
Well, occasionally some hiking, no real fishing.
Okay.
I have played golf, which is
Nice.
kind of new for me. My son-in-law, I recently acquired a son-in-law. My oldest daughter got just
one.
float in, put him in the train. But he loves to golf. So anytime he asks that, do you want to go golfing? I try to say yes. So I'm trying to get better at golf, or at least less absurd at golf. So I did that this week. That was fun. But just hanging out on the beach, enjoying the stillness of the water and just the beauty is a beautiful way for me to just sort of not think about anything. So it's been awesome. It's been really good.
This podcast is also a really good way to not think about too much. So,
well, that's why I figured there would be no conflict. I'm like, well, I'm not going to have to think very hard, to be able to hang out with you guys for an hour. So,
I think that's a compliment.
Yeah,
maybe
not.
I don't know.
I think it is.
Oh, it's definitely a compliment.
There you go. We're excited to have you. We're at the end of the show. I'm really excited about the end today. The beginning and the middle is going to be great too. But at the end, Chris and I have written a parody about you. Mm-hmm. And we want you to kind of hear what we have and give us some guidance and some coaching, because you are the ultimate parody writer. We've seen your hilarious videos and in person at Exponential. So I just kind of want to know, like, how'd you get into the parody writing?
Yeah, like business? How did that happen?
Yeah. Is that a business? I don't know. If it is, I'm the only employee. I will say, I mean, you thank you so much for your kind words. I really do appreciate them. I will only deflect enough to say that really, I mean, Weird Al Yankovic is the king. He's the one. He's the one. And I would say I became a Weird Al fan really young. I mean, I have memories of doing his songs as like lip sync battles in like junior high. Uh-huh. So, with costume changes and all this, so I was just all about Weird Al Yankovic. And so when it came to, writing parody songs or writing funny songs, like he was the measure, by which, I measured everything up against his expertise.
What a ruler. I'm telling you. So you have a background in theater. You still are active in theater. And how did it, you might be getting into this later. I'm just curious about how someone with that kind of background, how did you get roped in with Dave, and how did it go with the church side? Like, it seemed like maybe you were on a different path, and then did something change?
That's a good question. I mean, the shorter story, the 2.5 hour story, I'll spare you. But the shorter story is that, throughout my life, I maintained a relationship with God and with the church. I didn't have any problem with that part of my world. And then I also had this theater part of my world as an actor, and then eventually a director, as a writer. I would do sketch comedy in college. That was kind of where some of this short stuff, the songs and things like that would show up. But those parts of my life just kind of maintained themselves and continued on. When I met my wife in college in a theater program, we were amazed to meet each other as Christians. It was like, oh my gosh, I can tell you're a Christian. And we would have these great conversations and fell in love real quick, got married. And we continued to attend church as a young married couple living in Chicago. She's an actress, and she would work in the city, and I would direct plays. And it was really a relationship that I was able to develop with Steve Pedersen, who at the time was the Willow Creek drama director. This was back in the day when Willow was doing sketches every week. The drama team phenomenon was kind of everywhere in churches. And he was really the one who encouraged me, like, hey, we're doing this a lot. A lot of other churches might be looking for something like this. And so I think I got a hold of the Willow Creek, like list, the membership list, whatever that was. And I started sending out my resume to a bunch of different churches, and I happened to send one to Dave, and that was, 26 years ago. So, and I've been with Dave for 25 years now as the creative arts director. And it really felt like a combination of all of the things that I was learning. A lot of what was happening in the church world at the time in terms of creative arts was geared towards the theatrical. And so it was really just a blend of all the things that I was learning in my theater degrees. I have 2 theater degrees, which, if you have 2 of them, then you can skip the seminary degree is what I've heard. So
I was going to say you had 2 theater degrees, so you really didn't want to get a real job is what it came down to at this point.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah. Oh, well, that's the irony is I thought I was getting a real job. That's the absurd part. But yeah, it began a relationship for when I first started at Community. I thought to myself, this is perfect. What a great day job, because I can still do theater and I can do this, and it's related, and it's like having a show every Sunday, a storytelling every Sunday. And probably over the course of a 2-year process, really, where I realized, wait a minute, this is actually what you're supposed to be doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so that epiphany was, it was encouraging, and it was good. And it helped me kind of, put down roots and make big decisions about our family and where we were going to be, and continue to tell stories. And now I really kind of look at the job as just kind of like the chief storyteller of Community Christian. That's what I get to do. I get to help tell the story every week. And we do that through video. We do that through music. We do that through teaching. We do that through interviews and testimony. And so all of these kind of things that, I've had the opportunity to be able to experiment with over the years are really just all about telling the story. And so that's what I get to do every week. And as far as the parody stuff and the comedy, that was always a part of my life. Comedy was always a part of my life. And it's an important part of our church culture. When I came into Community, it was, the church was 7 years old. We had 1 location that had, 2 services meeting in a high school. And in order to do the things and the way in which God has blessed our church over the years, you really, in my opinion, you can't take yourself too seriously if you're actually going to pull some of that stuff off.
Right.
And if you do start to take yourself too seriously, that's, I think, when some of the red flags show up, and the pride goeth before a fall kind of thing. And so comedy is a great way to kind of keep yourself in check. And it's a huge relatable piece for people who are skeptical of faith. Because if you can make fun of yourself, if you can poke fun at things, it helps people understand that, okay, they understand this world. They're not living in this sort of bubble where things aren't funny because they're so serious, because they're so spiritual. They can actually look at the world and enjoy it. And so, and there's lots of strategy why, I think comedy is super important in church life. It's people walk into church with so many defenses. They're just, they've had some kind of experience in the past, and it hasn't gone great. And so when they come in, to be able to knock those defenses off, to kind of jar them a little bit, and comedy has a way of doing that. And so it's been a huge part of how we've kind of moved over the years, and the parodies are a natural, kind of expression of that.
What do you think, God thinks of comedy? Do you think that because I feel like there's some people out there that have this view of God that's so holy and distant, and that maybe he's not into it. But I'd love to hear your perspective. What do you think God thinks of just comedy in general?
That's a great question. I think God loves to laugh, and I think that joy, when we read about joy in the Bible, I think sometimes we don't think about laughter. We think about I don't know what we think about. We think about the musical Hair and everybody kind of, dancing in the fields, and that's somehow joy. So I think that God loves to laugh, and I think that he enjoys enjoying each other. Laughter is a part of that. Now, the hard part, and I don't know theologically if this has to do with the fall or if this has to do with, just man screwing it up. But I mean, the hardest part about comedy, one of the things that I learned in my adventures in comedy is that comedy is always at the expense of someone. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the most difficult part for sort of an evangelical kind of mindset, where it's like, well, it's not Christian to make fun of anyone. And so therefore you can't do comedy, because all comedy is at the expense of someone. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that's part of the danger. And comedy, like anything else, has, I think there are certainly places where you can go too far, where you can,
absolutely. Yeah.
Step on toes, and where you can, do things that maybe God wouldn't laugh at. But I think that in general, laughter and comedy, I feel like is more closely linked to the joy of our salvation than probably most people think of it.
I think of, the phrase, I got the joy down in my heart. And it feels like people say,
where?
Like people sing down in my heart. Like it's like a negative thing. No, it's like joy. It's exciting. And I think sometimes in the church we can get that wrong. And even the word happy, like that we come into, we share in our master's happiness and laughter and praise and glad and merriment. Like all these words are just constantly used throughout the Bible. And I think comedy is such a beautiful way to bring about that. Like you said, it is at the expense of someone, but if we're not taking ourselves too seriously and we understand our own brokenness and Christ's grace in that, that's something we can kind of laugh at. Like that, yeah, the devil thought he was going to end me, but Christ's grace is bigger. And now I can look at things in my past that might have been sad and depressing, but turned by the grace of God are something I can, even laugh at times in my life. So
it's funny. We do a lot of comedy skits, for Facebook and YouTube and things like that. For the last 19 years, we've been doing funny skits. And I guess it's kind of funny. Like in the first couple of days, you'll get like 1,000 views or something. And then your sermon got 200 views. And you're like, crap. Oh man, the comedy stuff is killing the sermons. Well, maybe not so much.
Yeah, maybe you put some of the comedy in the sermons.
What? What?
I know.
What are you talking about, chief storyteller?
That's crazy talk, Eric. Hey, I want to, I'm curious, like a couple questions on the theater acting world that you come from.
Which, by the way, not to interrupt, but I did the same thing in college. I'm going to interrupt. I did the same thing in college, and that is not exactly like a hotbed of evangelicalism,
right?
The theater classes. And so like, it was interesting what you said. You're like, hey, I saw another girl. She's Christian. I'm Christian. We're the only two Christians in this whole group. We should get married. Let's do it.
Right. And that's where my question's coming from, is like, I don't feel like that the acting community or the acting world, that's synonymous with it. And so like, I'm curious, like being there, what are those in the acting community? Like, what do they think about the church, and what do they think about those that follow Jesus?
Good question.
Yeah. Well, they're not huge fans. I can tell you that.
Right.
It's interesting. When I was in grad school, I was confident enough about who I was and what I thought about things that I was able to share my faith, and I had relationships with people and was able to try to bless them before I knew that our church's acronym of BLESS. I would just be a person who wanted to, kind of be salt and light as best as humanly possible in these circumstances. And I had great relationships with people who didn't follow Jesus, who didn't really understand church, collaborated with them, wrote shows together, had lots of great discussions. When I took the job, at Community, it was maybe a couple years after grad school. And I remember some of my friends, hearing about it, we would talk about it, and they would say, boy, Eric, that just sounds like that's perfect for you. And that really felt great, because that felt like, okay, they don't look at that as inconsistent. They don't look at it as, hypocritical or anything. They just say, oh, that seems to fit. Now, prior to working at the church, I would direct plays in Chicago and all across the country. And that was kind of my thing, was I'm a director. When I started working at the church, I continued to direct in the city. And I remember like the first show that I directed while working at the church was a show called Children of Eden in Chicago. And it's actually a 2-act musical that's based on the Old Testament. The first act is all about Adam and Eve, and the second act is all about Noah and the flood. And when I came in, there were many people there who already knew me. And so we just continued our relationship. But any of the people who I was meeting for the very first time, all of a sudden I was some pastor guy who worked at a church, and they were very skeptical. And I had a lot of work to do to and especially because we were doing a show that was based on the Bible. So, I mean, there were a lot of ways in which this was kind of like stacked up against me. And I would say whatever defenses are out there that, that might keep, your typical suburban family, the father of 5, and they're all little kids, and they're starting to ask about church, and they're like, oh crap, we got to go to church. Whatever the defenses are of that person as they're walking into the space, probably a theater artist has maybe 5 times more defensive-ness. They've been told, and you know what, it is frustrating. I can get on a soapbox about it, because part of it is that they are creative, and they are so close to the spark of creation that comes from a relationship with Jesus. Like they're actively participating in creation every day.
Yeah.
And so they probably see it faster than maybe that other fictional, dad and house husband that I was referencing. But the challenge is that they've seen it, but they've redefined it. And so they've taken God out of the equation. And so they've let all of these things that I think are really tied to who God is, in terms of him giving us a spirit of creativity and a spirit of creation. And they have those things, but they're accessing them, but they're not accessing them from the source.
Well, one of the interesting things you said was that, the first time you're directing, you're known as the pastor guy, and you're going to be directing after you get the job at the church. And let's be honest, Christians have put some really terrible shows on the small screen and the big screen. I mean, there's been a lot of junk that we've thrown on the screen. So I wonder if that's part of it too. Oh gosh, yeah. Can he even have any talent?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Your past has been negated by your current. And did you ever have, after that, do you still direct today any plays in Chicago or not? Yeah, you are in Chicago, right? Yeah, Chicago.
Yeah, so I still have a relationship with Porchlight Music Theater, which is the theater company that I helped found 28 years ago.
Okay.
And so I serve as an artistic associate there. That's really, at this point, it's a courtesy title. It means that I get to come to the opening nights and have a glass of wine, and everyone says, "Oh my gosh," because I directed the very first show of Porchlight Theater, and so there's all this like sort of nostalgia, and they kind of trot me out, and I get to wave and say hi.
You get trotted out.
Literally, yeah. Sometimes it's nice. Like a forklift, if I depending on how many glasses of wine.
Yeah,
but,
of
course. But I do stay active theatrically. My brother and I produce, and he directs a Christmas musical that we do through Community Christian Church every Christmas. It's called Let It Be Christmas, and it's the story of Christmas told through the music of the Beatles. And so every year we stage that show, and and it's a huge outreach. I mean, most of the people who come are from the community, and it becomes a great sort of secondary first door to people experiencing our church and our building, and
That's awesome.
And it's a lot of fun. We've done that every year for 15 years now.
Eric, you said earlier that those in the acting community might have sort of 5 times the defenses up than a normal everyday suburban family. Can you explain like why? Is there something, and I know everybody's story is different, but is there something that collectively churches or disciples have done that have raised that many fences up towards someone in the acting community?
I can answer this. Everything.
Yeah, it's hard to single any particular thing out, but I mean, I would say any kind of connection to politics has become suspect, and so I think that's a part of the defenses. I think the way that the Big C Church in America, evangelicals, have treated the LGBTQ plus conversation over the years has led to just a ton of suspicion and distrust. And so what gets perceived is kind of an overall lack of empathy and a lack of understanding, to be able to say, you don't understand me. And I think that probably in general, the church's target audience hasn't been the fringe artist. There's not a whole lot of obvious gains.
Mm-hmm.
And in that respect, it's kind of like we have a society right now that doesn't really have like an apprenticeship model when it comes to artists.
Yeah.
We don't have that idea of benefactors, kind of circling around and taking care of artists. And so, even the church, historically, the church has been pro art, but probably in the last, like the American church, maybe not nearly as much. And I think that's part of the revolution that was trying to happen with, I think, the seeker sensitive movement. It was not just about the audience. It wasn't just about the seeker. It was also about, being able to bring up the arts and be able to say, the artists are the voice, the artists are our modern day prophets if we'll allow them, the stage to be able to speak, it's hard for some of them to imagine that they would be given that platform.
So much in there that I think is important for us. And again, every story is different, every story is unique, but I heard several things kind of collectively that I would agree with all of them, that the collective C church, but also disciples, whenever we make it about anything other than Jesus and we make it more about politics than Jesus, that's never a good thing. When we don't know how to enter into healthy conversations with the LGBTQ community, and we had a great episode earlier in this season with Mark Schultz, if you're looking for answers there, like that's hugely important. And also remembering, Jesus did come for whatever reason, the acting community might feel like they're on the fringe, and Jesus came for those that are on the fringe, those that are different, those that, and I also think that, if the creative person, I agree with you, like we're all creative, we're all from the creator, and so they're so close if they got it right. And so I want to go there, but I want to kind of back up with this question and tell you a little bit, like, because I'm curious, like, how someone in your position stays creative. And the reason why I'm asking is because, like, I think words are really important. And there was a time when I was at seminary where I was told from a professor, I think in a writing project, that I wasn't creative enough. And like, that stuck with me as a person, as a writer. And like, I think I bought into that lie for a really long time. And years later, I still remember that. And I voiced that to someone else. And they were like, Zach, that is one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard, because you might be one of the most creative people I know.
Well, when he loses at the parody battle today, that might
we'll find out. Yeah, it might bring back. Yeah, so
jury's
but anyway,
still out. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I've come like a long way there, but I can believe those lies, and so I just kind of curious, because I think everybody's creative to, we are from the creator, but how do you maintain or cultivate creativity in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I think part of it is getting an understanding over time of, your who you are. I think when you can understand who you are, it's a huge part of tapping into that creativity. I I don't tend to think in terms of, so for me, I know that I have probably about 8 ideas, like 8 really solid, unique, like ideas that are really unique to me. And
Like in your whole
I
life
have,
or like every day?
yeah, like kind of, well, what I mean is like 8 core, like go-to ideas
Okay.
that are probably in my career, and I spend most of my time kind of hiding them so that people don't recognize that it's really just the same idea. It's really just the same thing that, I love. For example, I love watching Jesus walk around in modern day life. I think that's hilarious, and I love the idea of it. So in the early days, like we would make these videos with Jesus, walking around with his apprentice in downtown Chicago, and over time we would just have these moments of of levity, but it was basically the same idea. So I feel like I've got 8 ideas, and I'm just going to kind of toss them. So again, it's in that category of not taking yourself too seriously. It's okay. You don't have to like stress out and have come up with the thing that no one has ever thought of, because any songwriter will tell you, I mean, there's only 8 notes, there's only so many things you can do with the palette that you have. And so I think part of it is just being able to do the work of self-exploration, to be able to say, yeah, this is what I bring to the table. And so, yeah, I am going to come up with, one of the things we did, throughout the years at Community, we would combine on Sunday mornings, we would combine sketches with music. I mean, musical theater is what I was, trained in. And so while we did do some like traditional musical theater in church, but we would also take, a pop song and pull it apart and put in a sketch here and put in a monologue here. And, that was like a go-to idea for me. So like whenever we were coming up with a topic, and guess what? The topics don't change all that much either year to year, in our environments. It turns out every December, we're going to talk about Christmas. And it turns out in April, we're going to talk about the spring and new life and Jesus is alive. And I mean, so, and somewhere in there, we're going to talk about marriages, and somewhere in there, we're going to talk about money. I mean, the templates are set. And every now and then, maybe every 5 or 6 years, some of those templates really get tinkered with and just kind of shatter and then get rebuilt. But you kind of have to be comfortable understanding who you are as a creative and saying, this is who I am. And I would also say that teachers in the church, pastors in the church, need to understand that they are artists too. This is one of the things that very early on, as I was transitioning from like sort of theater land into like church world, that I realized is that a lot of pastors don't think of themselves as artists. And so then when they think that they're saying something, it's like, well, this is the word of God, and this isn't subjective. You can't be subjective about this because this isn't even me. And so then when you want to say, hey, could you make the word of God a little less boring? It's like, now I'm in this world where I can't even offer criticism necessarily, because you're kind of putting yourself in a place of not having the ability to be subjective. And so I think it's an important reminder, for pastors that we are all artists, and it is all subjective, and God chooses to work through us even though it's subjective. And so I think that's also, like, again, in that category of not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
It's great. Very good. I think so much wisdom there. Let's self-explore, see who we are. And I heard you say even the creative people, sometimes they have these boundaries, and that's okay, whether it's the 8 things or the templates in life. We're all working within a system, and especially as disciples, we tell the same story over and over and over and over again, but know who you are and the role you play in that story, and do it so well. And that's really cool. So I want to back up and give a little context, because some people may not have seen episode 4 with Dave Ferguson.
Well, apparently they're not in Kenya, because we're currently number 29 in the Apple iTunes charts under Christianity in Kenya.
So we'd like to say Hujambo.
Hujambo to our
Kenyan listeners.
I have no idea how that happened, but God bless you.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's very impressive.
So it's
hard to break into the Kenyan market.
We're going to do a show live in season 3 from Kenya if you want to go.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm in.
All right.
So on episode 4, Chris talked about his dream is basically to do what you do, and that God's put those gifts in Chris. And
also, I hope you weren't offended that I sent a resume to your boss and said, "Hey, Eric kind of looked a little pale. If something happens with him."
Right. Yes.
Here's my headshots and my jacket size and things like that. So I hope you didn't take that.
I thought that the lead pipe with the resume was a little much, but I mean, I understood the sentiment.
Thank you.
It's a tough world.
Where you were going.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
You said it yourself. There's not a lot of creative art director jobs out there. Okay. I mean,
no,
this is one
true.
of the primo positions, my friend.
Yeah, there you go. So Dave Ferguson and Eric, they are part of this incredible conference called Exponential. It's in many cities, but their big gathering is in Orlando every spring, and it's filled with 4 or 5, almost 6,000 church leaders, a lot of them church planters that are just there to receive from the Lord. And so there's some incredible sessions, incredible teachings. But the one thing at that everybody looks forward to is 100%. Eric's parodies at the last day. He writes a parody about whoever the Christian speaker or thought leader is that's coming up, and they're very well known, and so everybody in the room knows and laughs, and it's amazing.
But he also does funny videos throughout the week, too.
And that's what I want to talk about, because on episode 4,
I weaseled my way.
Dave Ferguson promised Chris Johnson a cameo appearance in one of those videos. And so I didn't know, if you guys wanted, is there any movement there?
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that at all, or game plan together, or where are we at with that?
Feeling okay still after this decision?
I think, well, Dave. I mean, Dave is so ridiculously optimistic. I mean, he's happy all the time. So, I mean, he's ready to go. Now, we'll develop the idea, we'll craft the idea, and then I'll go to Dave and I'll say, okay, here's the idea. And he'll say, no, who is this again? So, okay.
I know.
And what did I say would happen? What did I agree to? And then I'll need to explain to him. Yeah.
And maybe he'll remember. Maybe he won't.
He might not.
Yeah, maybe he won't. Yeah, he might not.
Just say the guy with the sparkly jacket that weasel his way in. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. No, the video beforehand is very strategic. It's very important for me because if I don't get that opportunity earlier on in the conference, then I show up at the end and I sing a song to somebody, and it's kind of like, well, who is this guy? And so yeah, I mean, it's very much and so we're looking to be as shocking as we can.
Good.
Kind of some in your face comedy. To really knock people off their rocker. In the past, I've done some. I think there was a Hero Maker theme. I don't know if you heard about this book that Dave wrote, but I found a Hero Maker costume. We made a Hero Maker costume, and I walked around interviewing people, looking ridiculous. That was a lot of fun. It was probably in the same color palette as your current outfit. So that's that's a really good sign as far as that goes. Yeah. I mean, this year's theme is evangelism. And so I'm sure that we'll be able to, maybe we could set up some renegade baptisms, out there, and just try to make sure that everybody gets saved.
Yeah,
before they come walking into this thing. Yeah, exactly.
Just spray the whole crowd and say, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you're done. Come on in. Yeah. Now you're clean.
I mean,
let's go.
Depending on how hot it is, when it happens in Florida, I mean, it's like, you're marching into hell with squirt guns. So, I mean, it's not that different.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's brainstorms to be had, and I'm totally open for it and excited to have you make your debut for sure.
Oh, this is going to be just really something. I am looking forward
happy for you, buddy.
Thank you. As soon as we got done with the last podcast, here's I'm going to pull the curtain back for a second. We got done and Zach goes, you just weaseled your way into exponential on this podcast. Like, you literally got Dave to go get Eric and you weaseled your way in, and we're driving down the road back to his house in Omaha, and he goes, I didn't get anything out of it. I was like, no, I know. You're the host.
What do you want, Zach? I mean, what do you need? I mean,
he doesn't need anything. Maybe just a coupon
for yourself.
Maybe
man.
a coupon to one of those food trucks or something. I don't know. Like,
all I want is to lift up others. And
here
so
we go.
By Chris winning, I feel like I win.
This drive home is going to be even more awkward today. It's so awkward because I just shut you down because now what do you want?
Well, I'll send my list right after the show, Eric. I've got about 10 points that if we can hit all 10, that'd be great. But no,
perfect.
The listeners out there, all I want is for Chris to be in his sweet spot.
You'll probably have a Red Letter Challenge booth at Exponential.
I think we'll probably be there again. Yeah,
so there you go.
It's a great opportunity to get the word out.
Give him 10% off his booth. He'll be fine.
Yeah, well, there are some things that the wacky comedic artists have control over.
You don't control booth sales?
That it turns out I don't have a line on that, but good luck.
All right.
Okay, so on that note, with Exponential, you do these parodies, and we talked about that. Episode 4, we talked about a couple of them that it went super sideways, which is just super hilarious. Yeah. So we're going to do our parodies in just a moment, but I do want to ask you this question because at the end of the day, this is a helpful, challenging podcast.
I'm ready to go.
I know you are. I'm ready too. But the question I have is, like, legitimately, if you could challenge those that are listening this week to do one thing to grow as a disciple in their own journey, what would that challenge be that they could do this week?
Oh, yeah. No, that's good. I've been thinking about this, and this is going to sound like not related to any of the things that we've been talking about. But I feel very, very passionately about this. And when it comes to relational health as a disciple, I think that the practice of forgiveness is probably the place where we've worked it out the least. It's like the muscle that has atrophied. So my encouragement is in the small stuff to practice the extending of forgiveness and the receiving of forgiveness in your daily life, in your relational life. I mean, obviously, you can connect all the dots to get to, Jesus as being the person who did not need, any of that, and yet chose to forgive us, and did so in the most ultimate way possible, with the highest stakes. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens with us in our discipleship is we sort of forget that because we've already kind of gotten it. So we got the card that says we're covered, and so then we move forward, and we don't really practice that in our daily lives. And so, I mean, I think practicing small versions of forgiveness, any habit can be good or a bad habit. And I think if you can develop the good habit of apologizing when you're wrong, and not just saying I'm sorry, but saying, will you forgive me? And give that person that opportunity to choose to forgive you. This is something we taught our kids. And so when we have battles and everything gets ugly, it's like, once we're done and everybody's adrenaline has settled, it's like, okay, now it's time for apologies. And so we're going to apologize for this. And you have to be able to talk about what you did, right? It's not just, I'm sorry that happened. It's like, well, no, like, what did you actually do? So I think a huge part, yes, read your Bible, yes, pray, yes, do all those things, but get good at apologizing and get good at extending forgiveness to the people that you're closest to, and do it in silly ways. Do it in ways that don't make sense, because what's going to happen is down the road, a month from now, something really big is going to happen. And if you don't have that habit, if you don't have that developed, you're going to miss it. And that's how you end up not talking to somebody for 10 years. And so anyway, that to me is like super, super important, and the thing that I would wish anyone listening to be able to get better at.
Wait a second. You, Zach and I have been spending a lot of time together. You were just offering some suggestions to not talk to people for 10 years. What was that again?
Right. Yeah. Secret sauce.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if you do that challenge, listeners, go ahead and put #RedLetterDisciple if you're extending, practicing forgiveness, even in the small stuff, even in silly ways, whatever it looks like. That's awesome. And I love asking that question because, again, we usually have guests on and love to talk about things in their field, in their zone, in their strengths. But then, you said this is not going to sound like anything else. It's kind of like a 180. I'd like to just press in one more question with that. Why is that particular one the one you brought up today? Is it personal for you? Is it something you're going through?
It's just one of these things that has always been close to my heart. I think that part of it is theater is probably the most collaborative art. It requires, no one person can do theater by themselves. Even a one-person show requires a crew to make lights happen, to make costumes happen. So you're constantly in relational proximity, and you're constantly, and we see that in our church environments, I have seen in my own life and my parents' lives and some of their relationships, I've seen those gaps happen where it's like years and years of no contact based on a rift or something that took place in the past. And I actually have had the blessing of being able to be a part of bringing some of those relationships together. And when that can happen, when you see the fruit of laying down your arms and choosing to forgive, you just kind of want it for everybody.
That's
so
awesome.
And I definitely have seen it in my children. They handle, everyone screws up, everyone loses their cool, everyone goes nuts. Having a relationship with Jesus doesn't keep you from going nuts. But when you can apologize, when you can receive forgiveness, and especially right now, because our culture is telling us that there's no room for that.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And I mean, everyone can get on their soapbox about cancel culture. I mean, I think that there are plenty of appropriate, ways in which, you can be served some kind of punishment for your wrongdoing. And it doesn't, and maybe it is a canceling of you as in the culture. Either way, yes, there should be repercussions. There should be, things that happen as a result of, people's misdeeds. But that doesn't stop us from being able to still practice forgiveness. You can practice forgiveness with someone for whom you have lots of boundaries, where you're like, I'm not going to get that close to that person because they will hurt me. However, I will be free of this, and I will forgive in order to move on. And so yeah, awesome. I mean, it's a topic that I love to talk about, and that I think is really important.
All right, so here we are. We're at the end here. Are you ready for the parody battle, Chris?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, you're going to go first?
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you want?
It's your show. It's your show.
This is your moment.
I'm the Eric Bramlett to your Dave Ferguson here. So
so I think what we want to do is we want to present our parodies to you as best we can.
And I said we should have backing track, but then the whole trademark copyright thing. So
we're not going to do that.
So it's going to be even tougher. Please remember, when you do this at Exponential, you've got backing tracks, you've got a band, give us a little grace there, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Lots of grace extended, for sure.
Okay, so I'll go first, and then I'd love your feedback. Maybe don't give the score if we're going to score this until the end to build suspense. I'd like to tell you that my parody about you is from the song Hit Me Baby One More Time. And so we're freeing Bramlett here today. But this song, my parody, was inspired by a dream of me going to Exponential Conference and having no Eric Bramlett parody at the end. That would be like being in the vicinity of the Grand Canyon, but not actually getting ever to see it.
Oh, here we go.
So that's the heartbeat behind Bramlett. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Chris, you ready for this? You got to beat what I'm about to do here. All right, here we go. Oh, Bramlett, Bramlett. Oh, Bramlett, Bramlett. Oh, Bramlett, Bramlett. I'm sitting here at Expo, and something isn't right here. Oh, Bramlett, Bramlett, tell me, where did you go? I've got to catch my flight, yeah. Show me that pastor parody. Tell me, Bramlett, because I need to know now. Oh, because my new church plant is killing me. And I must confess, I need your song, If you're not here, then why should I come? Give me that song. Hit me, Bramlett, one more time.
All right.
Wow. That's beautiful. That was beautiful.
Before you say any comments about that, my parody is a little bit more masculine. It is Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC. I'm going to try my best here.
Yeah, that's a tough one without a track.
Here we go. He's a parody machine. He keeps his monitor clean. He's the funniest joker that I've ever seen. Made fun of Francis Chan, telling me no lies, knocking me out with those creative vibes. Ferguson's Blake stare had me fighting for air. Exponential told me to come, but I'm already there. Cause the speaker started shaking, and old lady was quaking. My belly was aching, cause the Chick-fil-A wasn't taken, and Bramlett shook me all night long. Oh yeah, Bramlett shook me all day long. Wow. I did have another one. It was working double time on a super parody line. He's one of a kind. He can rhyme all the time. But there you go.
Wow.
Ferguson blank stare had me fighting for air. Come on.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff right there.
Okay, coach us. Right. Tell us.
Yeah,
well, let me just say that both of you are doing a great job of what I think a lot of people miss in parody is that they don't fully devote themselves to the scansion of the original song. So I think you both did a great job with that. You know, you held on to lyrics that where it made sense to hold on to them. You replaced certain words. But you kept the feel and the scansion of the original song. So that both of you get huge.
I have a serious question. Whenever I'm writing a parody, I always do the beats in the word, and I try to make sure that the line has the same amount of beats to you know.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You want to keep the same scansion, the same number of syllables,
right?
As best as possible, because for some reason it triggers. It, you know, I mean, that's like the very first Francis Chan parody that I wrote had that where it's like, you know, back in black, hit the sack, been so gone, I'm glad to be back. Mm-hmm. But I said Francis Chan. So now I've already changed it because N instead of ack. So, but I have to stick with N through the rest because AC/DC stuck with ack, you know, through that whole line. So it's Francis Chan. He's the man controlling you with giant hands. You know? So it's like, it just makes you laugh. And so yeah. I mean, I think both of you did a great job with that. And I don't look at either one of them as being necessarily masculine or feminine. I mean, that's fair. I mean, you were singing in a register that clearly you're not, you know, comfortable singing in with AC/DC, and you know, I mean, that's I don't know if that's masculine or not, but you nailed it, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters, baby. My belly was aching because the Chick-fil-A wasn't taken. Come on.
That was good because that's every church conference.
Every church conference has Chick-fil-A.
Always Chick-fil-A, especially at Baptist churches.
And it's quite a dystopian future that you set up there with Hit Me Bramlett One More Time, where, we're living in some kind of world where this isn't happening. And, that just kind of, it's that parody shaped hole in everyone's heart. You don't want that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So enough being nice.
Where can we improve?
No, I don't. You want to do improve? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This podcast is all about getting better, being greater.
That's true. All right. Yeah. Any recommendations?
No, I think with a rewrite, with another round. Yeah. I think that both of you in the choruses probably had almost too many lyrics that were exactly the same. So as the original song. So I would say, like, probably over time you might look at, Shook Me All Night Long is like, okay, Bramlett, is there another phrase there in a second chorus, or something like that, things like that. Hit Me Baby One More Time. It's like, there might be some places there. But yeah, I mean, I think for what we're doing here on the podcast, I think this is gold. This is
with a little expectation that I had, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. So you have to pick a winner. Is it Shook Me? Is it Bramlett Shook Me All Day Long, or is it Hit Me Bramlett One More Time?
Oh gosh.
Come on, Simon Cowell.
Yeah, this is tough. This is like Sophie's Choice really. Here. I mean, I don't.
I mean, you're being nice, but that's cool.
I think I got to give it to. I got to give it to Chris.
Oh, thank you. Good job. Good job.
And and Zach. I mean, it is such a close second. I mean, You are the first loser. There's no doubt about it, like Jerry Seinfeld said. But, I mean, the commitment to the voice, I think, because this isn't just the words. This is this is the whole thing. It's a holistic experience. And so
I'm just surprised you went after Britney Spears. That's kind of my thing. I did homage with my AC/DC song,
Yeah. Well, you got to take risks, and some risks pay off, and yours did, and mine didn't. Right. And I'm going to work on my life and my parody writing and my voice.
Listen, I think you're creative.
I'm going to come back better than ever. So anyway.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah.
This was awesome. Eric, thanks for the craziness and the fun, for taking some time on your trip away. Hey, if people want to connect with you or find you, where can they do so?
Sure. So you can find... There's probably something with me around Community's website, which is communitychristian.org. You can, I have a Twitter account at Billshazar, which is BILLSHAZZAR. And Billshazar, of course, is Community Christian's mascot. He's a plastic wise man. And so that's in the early days of Twitter, I thought it would be fun to just be Billshazar. So
now you're stuck with it.
Now I'm stuck with it.
Yeah.
And find me on Facebook. Find me on Instagram.
I did. He's my friend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So yeah, whenever, wherever.
Cool. And he is not, if you Google the Austin, Texas real estate Eric Bramlett. I saw that.
That's true. There are two Eric Bramletts in this world and the internet, and I am the other one.
Don't go searching for him and buy property in Texas. That's all I'm saying.
I know what it's like to be the other one. I've recently just been offended and told you weren't as good.
As,
so you know.
I know what it's like. Eric,
he gets it.
You rock, dude. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see whatever comes from you guys' cameo, video, whatever. So
thank you so much.
Blessings, bro.
Good. Yeah, epic. All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bramlett, thank you for coming on the show. I do forgive you as well for choosing Chris. But hey, I'm happy for Chris, right? The guy needs a win, and he got one today. So good for him. Hey, I appreciate Eric's words so much today. And if you want to connect with him or any of the resources we mentioned, grab the show notes at redletterpodcast.com. I also want to thank our sponsor today. It was Red Letter Living and our Resource Forgiving Challenge. We would love to team up with you and your church for a 40-day challenge all about learning God's forgiveness and freedom. So you can go to forgivingchallenge.com to find out more about that resource. And again, pastors, that offer's on the table. If you'd like a free copy mailed to you, this is for all USA. If you want a free copy, pastors, of Forgiving Challenge mailed to you, just email our team, hello@redletterchallenge.com, and that would be our pleasure to give that gift to you. Next week, we got a guest coming to the show. His name is Chesley Lundy. He is a co-founder of the Digital Church Network. And so I'm excited to talk to Chesley about what our opportunities are as disciples of Jesus in a digital world online, to help us see what's out there already that the everyday disciples may already be consuming. And also, like, what do we make of the metaverse? Maybe some of us know more than others about it. It's coming. What is it? And in some ways, like, how can we get ready and prepare for the metaverse? So next week's going to be a really awesome episode. Subscribe and follow on whatever platform you are subscribing or following. Just hit that button, that like, that subscribe, whatever it might be, so that next week it can show up automatically, because we're coming back week after week with the Red Letter Disciple.